Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss some movies, and today I come at you with another release by Netflix. In this case it is a horror movie called Choose or Die.
It's coffee time.
I did go into this movie without knowing way too much about it. I did suspect that by the title it would have something to do with some sort of game that our main characters are playing, and I did see on Letterboxd that Robert Englund was in the film, so I was excited going into it, and I had hopes because lately the thrillers, let's say, not horror movies, the thrillers that Netflix have been releasing have been really disappointing, so I was having some sort of hopes for this. As always, you guys, we're going to talk about this movie completely spoiler free, so let's dig into it. Choose or Die is a brand new Netflix horror movie that takes us back to the 80s and the gaming of the 80s and even before that, and it's also kind of a movie that feels like one of those books where you could choose your own adventure. This is a British horror movie, and it is also the debut film by Toby Meekins, and it was originally titled like, you know, Curse, like the game that our main characters play in this movie, but then it was changed to Choose or Die. I guess it was a little bit more appealing because you kind of are really intrigued just by the title to see what it is about and what kind of choices you're given. The movie follows a broke student who plays an obscure 1980s survival computer game in pursuit of an unclaimed $100,000 prize. However, when she starts playing the game, she realizes at some point she's not playing for the money, she's kind of just playing to save her own life. We have here college student Kayla, who is a cleaner, and she brings new and old technology to her friend Isaac that in return for that kind of helps her to learn code because that's what she wants to study. So they have this really cool like geeky relationship, and I really enjoy them as main characters. Curse is this fictional game that they made for this film, and it's basically a game that is forcing you to make a choice between two things that, you know, none of them actually sound really good. And of course, the more you play, the more you advance in this game, the harder the choices are gonna get. Kayla is our main character in this story, and she's the one that we really get to know. We really get to know a lot more of her background. Mostly as she's playing the game, we get to discover things from her past, things that happened to her family, and you get to see her struggle at home. The relationship with her mom is not the best. They're also going through some financial issues, so they don't really have much money, and Kayla is doing all she can to keep her mom, you know, alive with food and help with rent. And so she is a character that is going already through a lot before she even gets to play the game. She's your typical character that is one of those really strong main leads that has, at the end of the day, nothing to lose. So I love those type of characters because they are very unexpected. You never know what they're gonna do, how they're gonna react, how far will they go, because they literally have nothing to lose. Her eyes are on the prize. All she sees is the money when she starts playing this game, and even though the game gets a little bit disturbing, she still pushes forward. She still wants that money. Our other main character is her friend Isaac, whom I really enjoyed as a character because he's your typical nerd geek that lives in this kind of basement, completely 80s looking like man cave, full of old technology, old games. He's a little bit messy, let's be honest, but I really enjoyed him as a character, and I feel like they did try to make people really fall in love with him, especially if you love, you know, the nostalgia of the 80s and the games, and you're supposed also to root for him as a character. This is a movie that is obscure, but it also gets a little bit random at times. I feel like at some points it can get a little bit messy and loses focus, so I do understand why it did receive a lot of negative critique in that regard. The movie has really cool kind of like colder tones, and you get the vibrant greens from the game and the computer screen, and I like that they integrated a lot of those like older computer screen images, also to kind of help tell the story, to kind of help let us know where our characters are headed next. And I really enjoyed it. I guess it's part of the nostalgia, you know, of growing up in the 80s. The biggest issue for me, I feel like, was that a lot of things were left unexplained, unfinished, and some of the subplots were left kind of up in the air. For example, we have no idea how the game seems to mirror the characters' thoughts, their words and fears, but you don't usually question horror movies like this. The thing is, before the video games that we know nowadays, the most simple first video games were based on choices, you know, go left, go right, pick up a sword, like things very simple like that. And that is what you're gonna get from this game, but they're integrating that with horror, and I think that's why I really enjoy that part of the film. And even though it is nostalgic and this movie, it is feeding from a lot of other horror movies, I still felt like at least they brought something a little bit new compared to what we have been getting from Netflix lately. So instead of getting, you know, these open world, like amazing graphic games, what we have here are simple choices. Or are they that simple? It is basically a game that it's giving you two choices, and no matter what you do, someone's gonna get hurt, something bad is gonna happen, but also if you don't choose, then you die. So that is part of the thrill of playing the game, and as a viewer, that's part of like the fun. I think this movie was a lot of fun because of that choice and not knowing what was going to happen next. This movie takes the, you know, decision making to the next level. It is basically a game that curses the player, and they are forced to make this decision if they want it or not. Once you start playing the game, there's basically no way out. And I feel that's what it makes this movie terrifying. That's where the horror comes to play, because making that decision is like the horror part of it. There are some movies that have already touched this topic of, you know, making decisions like Saw or Would You Rather, things like that. But I feel like this one was a lot of fun for me because I was a gamer when I was already a kid. I've always loved video games. I never played this type of really old games where you only had choices, and I really loved it. And I feel like the horror part of it is that the decision that you make does not really affect you. It's not you that is getting hurt, somebody else is getting hurt depending on what you choose, because as long as you choose, you stay alive and something else happens to somebody else. So it is a lot of responsibility. When it comes to the horror, like I said, this movie is not really original. It does feed from other movies and things we have seen done before. However, there is a good amount of blood and gore in the film, especially there's a lot of violence when one of our characters make a decision in the game, when he makes a choice and something happens to someone. There are a couple of good choices when it comes to the violence that I really enjoy, especially towards the end. It does offer a little bit of a psychological side when it comes to the horror. You could say that it even points a little bit to mental illness. It could be something, you know, the ending could be something that M. Night Shyamalan would have done. But I feel like in the department that this movie is lacking is when it comes to giving this movie a soul. I feel like the movie was rushed at some point. The ending did feel rushed, even though I enjoyed the ending. But I feel like this movie would have benefited from having a little bit more running time. I ended up giving this movie a 2.5 out of 5, which for me means I recommend you guys to give the movie a watch. It was nothing like perfect. It was nothing extremely original that we have not seen done before, but I still felt like it was a lot of fun and a lot better than all the bunch of new thrillers that Netflix is throwing at us that are basically garbage. They're just the same tropey cliche thrillers, and I'm getting tired of them. I still appreciated what this movie was trying to bring to the table with this specific type of game, and it's combining something that new movies are doing, like Would You Rather or Truth or Dare, but it's kind of giving it a like twist and bringing it back to the 80s, which I appreciated. I think if you love the 80s, you're really gonna enjoy this movie. It does have influences from other films, and honestly, when I watched this movie, my first thought went to Brain Scan. It is a different movie, don't get me wrong, but it gave me a little bit of that vibe that I got from that movie many years ago. Brain Scan, it's still for me such an underrated movie. Absolutely love it. I watched it like last year again and I still really love it. So if you have not checked out Brain Scan, you have to. Despite this movie not being perfect, I still think that it was a lot of fun. I feel like the movie had an interesting message to bring across. And I still feel like this movie could have used a little bit more of running time, but if you in general enjoy this type of films and you are like me, somebody that loves that 80s nostalgia and that old gaming, definitely gonna be for you. And it has some nice, you know, gory moments added there as well. Alright guys, so these were my thoughts on the new Netflix movie Choose or Die, streaming now on the platform. If you have not checked it out yet and you're looking for a quick, fast-paced, fun time, just give it a try. I still think that it deserves a watch, and let me know down below what you thought about it. Let's talk about the movie in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, as always, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!